You are listening to the Beaverton, North America's trusted source of news.
This week on the Beaverton, the Supreme Court considers whether to restrict provinces' use of the notwithstanding clause. UCP advisors already trying to figure out how to explain to Danielle Smith that she can't use the notwithstanding clause to override the court's ruling on the notwithstanding clause. Doug Ford takes control of Billy Bishop Airport and announces plans to expand it. After all, nothing says a relaxing trip to the new Ontario Place spa like the roar of jet planes flying overhead. And the Blue Jays get ready for their season opener. On the one hand, pressure's high to get back to the World Series. On the other, Toronto fans are so excited to watch a team that isn't the Leafs, the players could probably slap us all in the face and we'd still be happy to have them back. That's right, it's time to make fun of the news once again on the Beaverton Weekly Report. Welcome to the show, everyone. So glad you were tuning in. I'm your host, Luke Gorenfield, and joining me this week are two of our regular panelists, both of whom joined the Conservative Party just so they could get early access to the Joe Rogan interview, Ian MacIntyre and Clare Blackwood.
Yum, 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 yum. Love that Joe Rogan.
I already had early access because I am a big Joe Rogan head.
Oh, you were on the JRE.
Yeah, I'm on their Patreon for years now.
Look, hey, we're in no place to judge a person's Patreon, but how insane would it be if Joe Rogan, in addition to getting billions of dollars from Spotify, was like, also sign up for our Patreon for $4 a month. All right, and also joining us, a regular special guest / producer, hilarious stand-up comic and actor who plays such a good cop, I accidentally cast him as two different police officers on the Beaverton TV show, Andrew Ivimey.
Hello, thank you for having me here. I have strong cop and Joe Rogan energy. I get all of my supplements exclusively from the Joe Rogan line of supplements.
Oh,
It could be worse. It could be Alex Jones.
that's true.
I don't get auditions for him, thankfully.
Oh, God.
But I do get a lot of also auditions for Joe Rogan type, and that hurts my feelings.
They can just picture you with podcast earphones on. And they're like, this guy's got it.
He's got it. Yep.
You gotta drop the muscles, dude. I'm sorry.
I got to.
Yeah.
I'm thankful that I have hair. At least that's holding back the tide of the Joe Rogan character type auditions for a bit.
Yeah. Next week, you can audition for like Joe Rogan's upstart assistant, the number 2 coming for his crowd.
His even worse brother.
Yeah. All right. Well, let's dive in. Let's talk about it's not the biggest news story, but it's probably the most fun.
Yeah.
Poilievre going on Joe Rogan. I think there's two sides to the coin, right? There's what they actually talked about, and then there's just the choice to go on in the first place. So talking about just the choice before was it a good idea for him to go on?
I think we have to ask ourselves, good for who?
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah, well, yeah.
Poilievre?
Great for us.
No.
Great for
the
us.
Canadian public?
Us, the Beaverton
No.
content creators? Yes.
Yeah, our ears? No. Our eyes? No. Joe Rogan? Again, no, because he had to listen to Poilievre talk for 3 hours. Actually, you know what? No, it just wasn't a good idea.
Fair enough.
I think it was because what does Poilievre have to lose? You know, agreeing to go on Joe Rogan is being like, hey, would you like to go talk to this grenade whose pin we can't find? And it's like, but if you're Poilievre, you're like, everyone's crossing the floor, no one likes me, I'm currently just in a dirt hole in the ground. Why not throw a live grenade into the mix? How much worse could it get for me?
Yeah. Poilievre's had a lot of tough beats lately, and most of them are self-inflicted. And I think this was the warmest cocoon of a safe space that he could wander into because he followed the Joe Rogan rules. Joe Rogan is a lot like approaching a bear. It's like if you kind of defer to it and don't make any sudden moves, it'll let you do anything you want. That's how bears work, right?
Yeah. Bears also have podcasts.
Yeah. Well, if you know one thing about, and I'm so sad that I know this, is that Joe Rogan is obsessed with showing his guests bear mauling videos.
Oh, good.
So your analogy is right on point
What?
because so much of the Joe Rogan podcast just being them being like, Jamie, pull up that polar bear video, and it's just a polar bear going to town on a walrus or something. They're like, look at it, and millions of people love it.
So, by the way, I do want to get it. Did any of us listen to it? Listen to the actual episode? Because I did. I listened to the whole fucking thing.
I just watched
man.
clips. I could not bring myself to listen to the whole episode.
No, absolutely not.
I got
Absolutely
coffee
not.
with a friend of ours on the weekend, and when she saw that I was listening to it, she said, Ian, this is the most specific kind of self-harm I've ever seen someone do.
It's so messed up you did that because I have met people in the wild who sincerely are fans of the Joe Rogan podcast, and they have never listened to a full episode of the Joe Rogan podcast.
Yeah.
Joe Rogan fans watch 3 to 5 minutes of Joe Rogan a week. They have never, I don't know what's going on or how it's so popular. No one's consuming full episodes of this.
But I think they're still subscribed to the feeds. They're still down.
Yes.
They're getting the downloads
Sure.
from them.
Yeah.
But then they're just watching a 10-minute clip on YouTube max.
But I think there's a lot of guys who I think listen to it like while they're at work or while they're at the gym or something like that. So they're half listening to it, and they're just ingesting all of it on vibes and straw man arguments that go right past and nothing gets challenged.
The one thing I'll say about the decision to go on before we dive into the content is I totally agree, Claire, that I was like, this is idiotic because all he's going to get are dudes in their 20s, 30s, and maybe 40s who already are voting for Poilievre overwhelmingly. It's young dudes. That's who Poilievre's base is.
Yep.
But I kind of underestimated how much the media, the Canadian media specifically, loves talking about this American paid attention to us and how much buzz he would get off this American paid attention to Pierre Poilievre and how many stories would just be written about, like, you know, the equivalent of like an actor booking a big role in the States or whatever. It's like, oh, this person we hated before, now they're appearing on, you know, NBC tonight, so we're going to write about it.
But I don't know. I see what you mean, but at the same time, I feel like it's going to be such a flash in the pan. And I just feel like out of all of the quote-unquote like legitimate things that could have made Poilievre look good in our cultural landscape, Joe Rogan is not one of them. Like, in terms of who he could go on in the American media, I could just be extremely biased in my great dislike for Joe Rogan, but I just feel like if he had gone, I don't know, it's like when Carney went on was it Jon Stewart?
Jon Stewart, yeah.
Something like that. I don't know, something that isn't. I feel like, I don't know, maybe it's the media I consume, but I think my initial, what I was reading as reactions were from the left and the right just being like, what the fuck is this?
Well, I think that was the reaction to the news he was going on.
Yes.
I will say the coverage of his actual appearance was very positive.
And I think a lot of that is because of what we were just talking about, which is that no one actually listens to it.
It was so obsequious.
I don't mean, oh my God, it was. Like, and I don't mean this as a subtweet of everyone else at this table, but a lot of the coverage I saw was like, oh, he stood up for Canada a bit. Yeah. And he said something about knock that shit off, Trump, and all this kind of stuff. And I was like, I guess it was a good thing. And it's like, if you listen to the full 2.5 hours, which I had to ingest in small chunks like a king building up a tolerance to poison. If you listen to the whole thing, like, it was very bad for Canada. Like, I know what you were saying a minute ago, Claire, like, who is this good for? Like, it was very good for Poilievre on the overall. It was very bad for Canada.
Yeah.
Yeah. So like I want to open this to anyone, but you listen to the whole thing. So I'll direct this mostly to you, Ian. Any favorite moments that maybe especially that the media didn't cover in their recaps of it, or any favorite moments overall?
I love how twice in the first 5 minutes, Poilievre said, without a hint of irony, I'm a big kettlebell freak.
Oh.
As he was gifting a ceremonial kettlebell to Joe Rogan.
That was the real low point for me. It was him giving Joe Rogan a kettlebell with like the JRE logo coming out of a Canadian flag, for anyone who hasn't seen it.
The low point of you was the first 5 minutes?
The low point was the still image I saw on Twitter.
It started at the low point and it continued at the low point.
Started from the bottom, now we're
Still there.
Now we're further into the bottom. Yeah. I mean, I think the worst part.
And
was
when Poilievre says that he's a kettlebell freak, just to be clear, it means that he is a kettlebell that was struck by lightning during a cursed wish, and now has become a man. That's what he means by he is a kettlebell freak. Yeah,
like a wolf man or a kettlebell freak.
Absolutely.
Exactly. Yeah.
I will say, I did watch little clips of it, and I do like one of my favorite quotes was him saying he called himself the Prime Minister in waiting. If I can like bring out my history minor here, lady in waiting as a concept was like an assistant or a companion to the Queen, right? And so if you're telling yourself like a prime minister in waiting, I think we can naturally assume, and Pierre, I hope that you're listening, that he spends his day helping Carney get dressed, helping him open gifts, going for walks with him, playing him music, and if he eventually does become prime minister, probably being beheaded for treason. So I think we all have that to look forward to.
Oh, good. Beheadings.
Yeah.
Well, I was going to say a couple of the things. Like, the one that I found so emblematic of the whole thing, what the problem was like, there was one moment, you might have even seen the clip, where Rogan says, like, but dude, like, isn't up in Alberta, there's like a place where they've just like scorched the earth with like the oil extraction? And Poilievre jumps right on him. He's like, nope, that's not true. We have the most responsible oil extraction in all of the world, just totally responsible. And like 5 minutes of pure resource extraction PR.
And talking about how the only people who are mad at it are like
Environmental terrorists.
Yeah,
I believe
environmental
he did use the
terrorists
term
and like
terrorists.
climate freaks and stuff like that.
And other countries that want to take us down. And like not a single, he didn't say a fact at once in all of it. It was just, we are the most responsible.
Yeah.
And Rogan goes, wow, man, yeah, I guess that propaganda worked on me. They tricked me. You're totally right. End of discussion. And it's so the takeaway for anyone half listening to this while they, I don't know, load pallets at work in a warehouse or something is, oh, I guess Alberta's oil is fine and I shouldn't think any more about it. And everyone telling me that it isn't fine is a liar. And that's how the Joe Rogan experience works.
Well, because he's got that particular brand of Trump disease where he just agrees with whoever's in front of him,
Yeah.
and he just wants to get along with whoever's in front of him, especially if they kiss his ass the way Poilievre did with the kettlebell. And so he every once in a while Rogan will get confrontational, but almost always it's in this it's like in his three wheelhouses, which is like working out, vaccines, and polar bears. And
He,
so it's
he grinded all those axes over the 2.5 hours.
yeah, so it's like if it's anything else, he'll just be like, well, you're speaking, so you know more than me, I guess. And also, I'm an idiot, which he is.
Yeah.
So, yeah, I agree with you. Okay, fine.
And he's definitely drifted more to the right over the
Oh,
years.
yeah.
Oh,
Like,
1,000%.
listening to him talk, he's at best libertarian, which is just dumb right-wing speak. But yeah.
And when you say he's drifted more to the right, I think like a lot of it with Rogan and his ilk is that everyone around him has drifted more to the right, because I don't think he's got a lot of his own ideas. Like when you talk about his brand of like of the brain worms Trumpism, where it's just he just says whatever the last thing said to him was.
Yes.
Like if you were able to kidnap Joe Rogan and just drop him into a room of progressive leftists, within a week those are the only things he would be saying. Because like a goldfish, he didn't exist 10 seconds ago. Like that's just kind of where his brain is. Whatever the last thing that was said is the only thing that was ever said. It's a man who lacks object permanence. Is just kind of who this guy is moment to moment, which is like an easy thing to win when you are, willing to sell yourself out to go on and talk to it.
He's also a rich dummy who has zero perspective on the fact that his career is so much fluke luck. Like he was a stand-up comedian who hit it enormous because he hosted fucking Fear Factor.
Well, first he was the 8th lead on a popular sitcom.
News radio.
News radio.
And then, which is a great show. I mean, it drops off very dramatically after a certain event that happened.
Yeah, the wrong news radio cast member got murder-suicided.
But
Jesus.
Phil Hartman. So it drops off dramatically after that, so don't watch that. But the first 4 seasons are great. Dave
it's a great
Foley's
show.
Hilarious. It's a great show.
Oh,
But
and he's
anyways,
fine. Like,
and
Rogan's
he's good
fine
in it.
on that show, yeah.
He plays the dumb guy who's like kind of cool, but also
kind of into conspiracy theories.
And
Who'd
it's
have
just
thought?
kind of like
perfect.
a dude around the radio station, and so like it's like, hey, if you need a guy to come in and go like, whoa, what's going on here? He's there, and it's like, all right, he does it, and so like, and from that he gets Fear Factor, and from that, and from that.
Right.
But yeah, I agree. I mean, it's not like anyone looked at Joe Rogan's stand up or Joe Rogan as a person was like, that's the star. It's just kind of he was there, and a bunch of stuff happened around him. So that's the reality of it. But yeah, of course he's not. No one who achieves that level of success ever thinks it's anything other than their unique brand of brilliance. Especially when it's like millions of people listen to me, that kind of shit. But let's talk about the individual things.
Sorry.
Ian's just quivering with
I'm
rage.
still so mad from having to do this over the weekend. I had to get a physical on the weekend. I had to get my blood pressure taken, and it was bad for it. It did not help.
Well, join the Patreon to sponsor Ian's lorazepam medication. Or wait, that's not blood pressure. Never mind.
I'll take it.
Yeah, sure.
Mail me your lorazepam if you got it, folks.
Warfarin. Damn it! I'm gonna try and remember. What's the blood
On his
pressure?
way out, they let him put his fist into a fun box and just take out whatever pills they could get.
Loose pills.
Loose pills. Loose, unlabeled pills. Yum,
It was
yum.
MacIntyre, they call him.
Well, let's talk about the one. I think the big takeaway for the mainstream media was what you just said, Ian. Was the defense of Canada, which specifically was, he was asked about Trump's 51st states threats and about all the tariffs, and he basically said, if I was talking to Donald Trump, I'd tell him to knock that shit off, which of course he would never have the balls to actually say to Trump. But anyways, and he said, and he gave, I'll give him this. He gave a good answer to that question. He said, he did. You can look at me all you want. He gave a good answer to the question, which was, we're allies, we're your friends, knock that shit off, let's get back to doing business together. Which is, I think, the energy that probably 60 to 70% of Canadians have, and that's the very centrist position on this, is we still like the U.S. kind of, and, you know, we don't even necessarily are that political. We just want to get back to how things were before all this insanity burst into the scene with Trump 2.0. Even Trump 1.0 was generally not the worst for us economically. Obviously, there's a lot of horrible things happening on. So I think it was a good answer. The question, of course, becomes, why couldn't he say that before, especially during the election that was decided primarily on Trump's 51st state threats?
I mean, I think you just said it. He's too chicken shit to actually say it to Trump.
Yes.
Like, it was so clearly an attempt to make himself sound cool in front of Joe Rogan.
I
It's
said
like,
a swear in it.
Yeah, exactly. It's like me, like, trying to, you know, go into a mall and saying things like sus and 6'7" to impress the group of cool-looking teens.
And you've got to stop doing this, Claire. The mall security are
Don't tell me what to do, Dad!
Half our comments are about this.
But you know what I mean? It's just him trying to be like, oh, how do I impress this cool dude? Knock that shit off, pal. That's what it read like to me. That was it.
Same. And it so clearly was an attack line he had prepared in his head and came in with, because he said that one thing and then he said like that one comment and then 50 minutes asking Joe Rogan questions about MMA. Like, it's such a tiny part of what he talked about the whole time. And most of what he talked about is along the lines of what you said, which is like Canadians and Americans like each other. He talked about it in a delusional way. Like, there's no actual problem. Why are we worrying about this? Let's just forget all about it and move forward, which is, I contend, not what Canadians want right now. At the very least, Carney has been like, this is a problem and we need to talk about it. I might not have the exact answer to it right now, but this is a real problem. And Poilievre is like, I don't think there's a real problem, and I think we could all just move past it.
There's a reason why Carney's Davos speech struck a chord with so many people, which is just what we have been doing forever doesn't work. And we're all like, yes, thank you. It doesn't work. And I agree, like, for him to just be like, and we'll go back to the old ways that everyone was happy with.
Yeah.
Definitely not just like rich white men.
Yeah. I think that, like, I think that there is part of this as well where Poilievre and his team kind of made the right call here in terms of an optics thing, in terms of like what they're doing, because what they're doing is exactly what Carney did, which is, how do we juxtapose the definition of us in contrast to a lunatic? And it's just like Carney did that with Trump early on to be like, okay, Trump is Jigsaw and we're not playing his games. Like, we are just not doing that, and that is how we're defining ourselves. We're like, we need to be better. We need to not play this game. That's the Davos speech. And he was, and Poilievre's like, what if we defined ourselves by aligning with a different lunatic against a third lunatic? And it's still just defining ourselves based on something else going around, but it worked for Carney and it's working for him. So I feel like he just found like the exact conservative way to do the thing that got positive press for the Liberals.
Except I maintain he's barely doing it. And in terms of that aligning yourself with a different lunatic thing, it reminded me of like real wiener little cousin energy. Like, imagine you're the little cousin and you're going to your cousin's place at Christmas time. You're like, oh, he's my older cousin and he's so cool. And he likes Nintendo, and I'm going to read all the Nintendo Power magazines, and I'm going to come I'm going to show up knowing all the things to talk to him about. And I'm just going to ask him questions. And meanwhile, your older cousin is an idiot who lives in his parents' basement and smokes a bunch of weed and lifts kettlebells.
Yeah, who literally doesn't even know your name.
And doesn't know your name and doesn't care. But the fact that you're like, Cousin Mark, what do you think of this? And he just talks for an hour, not caring about what you're saying. That was the whole dynamic of the Poilievre interview. And I think Poilievre is just as willing to align himself with Trump if Trump would, in his words, knock that shit off.
I agree.
Oh, yeah. I mean, if you were to boil down Carney and Poilievre's position, Carney, as you said, is at least nominally on paper saying we need to diversify away from the U.S.
Yes.
The way forward is EU, it's China, it's India, it's trade diversification, it's working with everyone and anyone, not just the country who geography put at our next door.
Yeah.
And Poilievre is, let's go back in time to 1998 and all will be well again. Let's just have one trading partner essentially, and we'll sell everything to them. They'll buy everything from us. We'll buy a few things from them, and every once in a while, to be fun, we'll buy something from like the EU, and it'll be fancy. And like that's essentially the
cheese.
We'll buy some kind of cheese and
imported
fancy wine.
kettlebells.
Yeah.
Le kettlebell.
But like, you know, as far as like, again, I think I said a version of this last week, but as far as like, you know, a political debate goes, I'm at least somewhat satisfied there are actually two visions of how to move forward going out there.
Sure.
I certainly agree more with the Carney version, if he actually does it. I don't think he will, because I think Carney would also very much happily go back to how things were and put that sign right back in the window if Trump magically flipped a switch and was like, forget it all, let's just go back to doing business. I think Carney would be like, fine. He would still, every once in a while, like sign a free trade deal with like Croatia or whatever. But other than that, he would just like, be like, all right, yeah, we're making money. Who cares where it comes from? So like that's the nominal division. Although again, I think at the end of the day, they're a lot closer on this than they want us to believe because they're each trying to stake out a different corner. But let's talk about Carney a little bit because he's also sort of in the news, although I was shocked how little coverage this got, which is Global News came out with a big breakdown of all the spending cuts that the Carney government has put in place. And when I saw that, I was like, oh, that's going to be a big story. And then like very few people picked up on this, very few media. And maybe it's just because it so runs against the grain of what we're talking about right now, which is Carney mania, Carney's polls soaring, Pierre Poilievre's, stuck in the rut. The conservatives are going to be decimated the next election, et cetera, et cetera. But so it's and Carney did promise to cut spending, and boy is he keeping to his promise. So double digit cuts are coming to basically every department. Some of the examples: CRA down 40%, Canada Post down 98%, Via Rail down 50.2%, Crown Indigenous Relations down 18.5%. All told, 85 departments will collectively receive $31 billion less dollars.
Via Rail is just going to be one train car held together with gum and hope.
I mean, is Via Rail?
That's what it already is.
Yeah.
Oh no!
Now there's
there's no hope. No, we kept the
Now
gum.
there's no hope, and also maybe we don't have to pay our taxes anymore, guys.
Canada Post 98%. So it's just going to be one lone letter carrier
but
walking across the post-apocalyptic tundra.
When I read
Kevin
that,
Costner in that
I
movie.
had to double check that stat. It comes down to what the way Canada Post, because obviously Canada Post is a Crown Corp, it's not a government department. It charges money for its services, so it's the equivalent of saying like you need to live on what you make, and we're not giving you any more money. You need to live off the money you make from charging people for delivery, et cetera, and stamps.
And last year had a particularly high one-time funding in order to compensate for losses, so it looks weird.
Yes.
But when you sent out the email and I saw 98, I was like, 98, Jesus, that can't be right. And then I did the math, and it's not right. It's 98.4. This is a rounded down number.
I did round down.
Which is, there's something about that extra 0.4 that's what broke me. 98 I was mad about, and when I actually plugged it into a calculator and got 98.4, I was like, I don't know why, but that's a straw too far. We can't be like we were 0.1 away from rounding up to 99. And at that point, just shut it down.
I genuinely believe someone in the accounting department at the PMO said to Carney or whoever was like, we're cutting them 99%. They were like, oh, that looks bad. It's like, well, if we give them $5 more, it's actually 98.4, and we can write down to 98. They're like, yeah, all right, $5 more.
That's good.
Give them some Louis Riel stamps.
Yeah.
I wish I remember who said this, but I remember somebody online, so take it with a grain of salt, somebody who seemed to know what they were talking about, being like, y'all are making way too much a thing out of this. It's not necessarily cutting all of these budgets by 98%. It's something to do with these numbers compared to the original budget. Compared to how governments are, I'm not sure. It was just it was more complicated than just these things are being cut by 98%.
A lot of it is coming from the civil service being reduced, which is they're hoping will be almost all retirement and people choosing to leave, and they just won't replace them. Which is its own problem because, of course, these people were presumably doing things, so you can't just be like, well, we didn't replace Todd, and Todd didn't do nothing, so it's fine.
Nancy's just going to get more work and not be paid for it.
Yeah, exactly. But that can only go so far. One person can't actually do the job of 10 people and have things continue to run well. And the other big thing is there was a lot of programs that they're just not refunding. So I think that's where a lot of the calculations get changed. Is because there was a lot of programs, for example, we had a global climate change initiative that was helping other countries lower their climate emissions that we are not refunding. So that program is not being canceled because it was a set program that was going to last a few years. It was a Trudeau government initiative, of course. And
you don't say.
Well, yeah. I just mean it's based on the fact that Harper obviously wasn't going to do that. But so it was a Trudeau government initiative. It has reached the end of its shelf life. We could re-up it. We could continue funding climate change initiatives around the globe. We are not going to. And you could make the argument that it's other countries need to fund their own climate change initiatives. But the problem is climate change is not a thing that stops at the water's edge.
No.
And so it's a global problem. So global, ignoring the globe and just focusing on our own stuff, which we're also not doing, doesn't do much to help climate change problems. So that's where I think where a lot of the calculations get changed, and I'm sure the Carney government will say, no, of course we're not cutting such and such percent. But if you factor in all of that stuff from the peak of where they were, I think like under Trudeau, that's the reduction that we get to. And of course, the contrast is that defense spending will be up $5.3 billion.
Well, then all the libs need to stop whining then. The tanks can do our taxes. The jets can do indigenous relations. It's fine.
And the Sea-King helicopters will deliver the mail until they fall out of the sky.
Absolutely.
Claire, you joke, but what you're describing sounds fucking adorable in a cartoon way. A tank walking on 2 feet into an H&R Block, doing my taxes for me. Yeah, I would like that. Jetson's future. Yes, please.
Can we find the least
Thanks
threatening?
for following with us.
I like it.
Can we find the least threatening equipment to do the indigenous relations? I'm worried about how that's going to go. That doesn't seem like a good message given our
Listen, if
history.
we're going to fund our defense spending, I don't think we're starting from a very good place anyway.
Yeah, that's true. But yeah, so that's, and again, this is sort of, it's extreme, but this is sort of what Carney promised to do and is delivering on. So
I'm just glad to see a conservative government not afraid to be a conservative government for once.
So do we applaud him for sticking to his guns, or are we just more focused on how the negative impact this is going to cause?
Applaud is a strong word, but I am, there's part of me that's like, oh, you can stick to your campaign promises.
Yeah.
There is part of me that's just like, oh, that would have been nice a few years ago. So it's surprising. There's some backbone to it, absolutely, but I wouldn't use the term applaud.
I hear you.
Yeah,
I do feel like a few months ago, Carney was all like, there's going to be sacrifices in the budget. And then his aides were like, stop saying that. And he never really said where the sacrifices were going to be. And he's gotten pretty quiet about it. And I think is jet setting around the world right now, avoiding coming home and talking about this. You were right about how much no one talked about this last week.
Yeah.
I actually tried to find a podcast to listen to on the drive over here to listen to about, and I couldn't find a single non-batshit crazy right-wing podcast to listen to that was actually talking about these cuts.
and even those podcasts where it's just like, this is such a perfect combination for no one to talk about as well, because obviously it's something that is unpopular and it's boring. So that's a huge benefit of a lot of numbers. A lot of it is complicated, weird restructuring of one-time payments and things like that it's actually hard to analyze. So not only is it boring, it is complicated. It's also unpopular, and all of the people around Carney are like, shut up, we don't need to make a big press release. Let's not make a big deal out of it. So it does not have the liberal press machine behind it in any way. And then Poilievre and all conservatives are talking about Rogan this week. So, and also they wouldn't bring this up because this is absolutely all of the things that they want. Yeah. So if conservatives did bring it up, it would be them giving kudos and accolades to the Liberal Party, which they don't want to do. So all of this comes out and it's just like, well, yeah, no one wants to talk about it. It's complicated. It's boring. The people doing it don't like it. And the people who don't like it actually do like it and are just trying to talk about Joe Rogan. It is a perfect hell of no one wanting to say anything about this.
Yeah, and it's when you do complicated behind the scenes funding cuts like this, it's one of those things that isn't felt for potentially years. What I mean? All these cuts, because you're to our examples before, maybe Deb can do the job for a few more months before she has to go on
Deb's
stress
pretty
leave.
great.
Maybe all these civil service cuts and all these programming decreases and the sunsetting of all these funding programs that the Trudeau government had, you're not going to notice those right away. But in a year, 2 years from now, you're like, man, Via Rail got even worse. And man,
when I try to call the CRA, I have a 2-month waiting now.
Filing my taxes somehow got even worse. All these things that were like, wow, how much worse could it get? It can get worse. It can always get worse. And so it's like one of those things where it's like, this is, a really shitty thing that I totally understand why it wasn't front page news. But on the same hand, it's like that is going to impact us so much more in all our daily lives. than Poilievre going on a podcast
Yeah.
or, whatever, like even Carney's Davos speech. Like this will have more of an impact on our lives than Carney getting a standing ovation at Davos and making this big proclamation about taking the sign out of the window and all that stuff. Like, and that is the brutal efficiency of someone like Carney and the people who work for him who know how to slash and burn in a way that people don't get mad about. And
or at least not right away.
Yeah. And that's the thing is like if you're trying to, cut the size of the government, that's the smart way to do it. And you're right, you wait for the right timing and you leak it on a Friday and no one pays attention over the weekend and by Monday it's old news and
Did he
all that
know
stuff.
Poilievre was going on Rogan?
And
apparently Poilievre's texting him, so I guess so.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Their
I
text
want to
threads?
know what their texts are about.
I guarantee you it's just Poilievre saying shit and Carney's just sending a thumbs up emoji
Oh yeah,
every time.
yeah. Oh yeah.
So
It's
passive aggressive.
So
Hey,
passive aggressive.
Hey boss, how's it going?
Every once in a while,
Guess what I did today?
You gonna listen to me on Rogan? Thumbs up emoji.
maybe once in a while an LOL, but that's the
Yeah.
most you're
Oh,
getting.
yeah.
Just an LOL with no exclamation
Yeah,
point.
Or no,
occasionally,
it would be laughing out loud. It's Carney.
you're supposed to know.
yeah, occasionally Poilievre's like, "Did you see that NDP debate?" And then just LOL. Yeah, but yeah, it's the sneaky time to do it, and always the sneaky time to increase military spending as well. Like, so that's completely gutting and increasing military spending, which is not something that gets decreased easily. So once you get it up, you can kind of just keep it there permanently, and then also.
And this is just the ramp up. It's gonna keep, it's like the ramp up they have for military spending, like 5.3, sorry, is nothing. It's gonna be like 10, 20 billion more.
Well, strained
over the next few
relations
years.
with your largest defense ally is also one of the best excuses that a politician could have for doing that exact thing that they wanted to do, even without this particular geopolitical climate.
Yeah, it is hard to argue against the military spending right now. Like, I'm not saying I wouldn't rather see the money being used on social programs. I would, but it's a hard argument to make when it's like, hey, you know how we've had this umbrella protection of living next to the U.S. all these years? That's gone, and also maybe the cannons are being pointed in our direction now.
Well, now we'll last 10 hours against them instead of just 2.
Yeah, exactly.
Well, yeah, because he just spent like, what was it, 35? He just promised 22 billion for Arctic defense.
I don't know that specific number, but I know it's a lot.
It was
I don't
last
know,
year.
yeah.
It was like, I think it was allocated in 2022 or something like that. It was maybe 35 billion. Some large amounts of billions of dollars that he's putting towards Arctic defense now.
Yeah.
You're like,
I mean-
Trump is talking about the Arctic a lot.
That is by far our most, even without the U.S. being the concern, that is by far our most vulnerable point because Russia and China also have access to the Arctic and the minerals that are there. And, and as we've already seen in a fun way, there's been tons of territorial disputes over the Arctic with like Denmark and, over like certain islands and stuff. And like, that was like fun. Ha. They left, we left whiskey, they left a pack of Legos or whatever. And now, but like you remember that stupid fight on that island, yeah. And I'm just thinking of Danish things, whatever. But and then that version can get very unfun real fast when you're dealing with Russia and China. Yeah. So I get, again, all of these things make sense. It just sucks to be like, well, people's day-to-day lives have to get worse so that we can spend billions more on defense. And again, like not to get all like hippie, but like in 2026, we're still just like fighting with each other so much and people's lives suck. Like that's just the shit. And again, not to be all like depressing and whatever, but it's like, it's just one of those things where it's like, yeah, we still haven't figured out this whole global conflict thing. We're still just pointing guns at each other and stealing, fucking resources from each other.
I'm sure Carney talking about how great the economy is doing will make it all go down real smooth, though. I'm glad he keeps saying that.
Every day I'm filled with anxiety about the war in the Middle East, but hey,
Yeah.
at least we know the fishery department is being defunded.
Well, that's a great transition, Claire. That you're using your hosting experience to good ends from a few weeks ago. Because let's talk about the war in the Middle East. Trump says negotiations to end the war are underway. He conveniently said this just an hour before the market opened, and he desperately needed it to go up. So conveniently, right before the markets opened, Trump said the U.S. and Iran were making progress in negotiations to end the war, open the Strait of Hormuz. He said as a result, the U.S. would hold off on planned attacks on Iranian oil and gas. Sure enough, the market skyrocketed. Just long enough for just well enough that someone made a lot of money. Specifically, someone bought $1.5 billion in S&P 500 futures.
Like 15 minutes before.
Yeah.
Like 15 minutes before. and almost like there was someone on the inside working some kind of con. But I know the U.S. government wouldn't do that. And then of course Iran came out and
Baron, how do I do computer? how do I do
Carney
stocks?
just texted me, LOL, what does that mean?
Yeah, and of course Iran has come out and said that is not true, that they, there is no negotiation at this point. It's, it's a war for survival for them, and they're not, they're not agreeing
Am
to
I
anything.
taking the fucking Ayatollah's side in this stupid he said thing? God damn it.
I do love how Iran is just constantly calling Trump's bluff.
Yeah.
Like, he's like, I give you 24 hours, and they're like, 24 hours is that, bitch? And he's like, I give you 5 days.
Yeah.
And they're like, we'll see you. We'll see you there.
And he's like, I'm on a Zoom call with them, and they're like, no, he's
you're
not. No,
not.
I'll share. Iran's like, I'll share our screen. You can actually see that we're not in a communication right now.
Yeah.
Like, it is so like absolutely nothing this bitch says is what we're doing, and Iran is always just like, nope.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, there's something too when when you've been threatening someone for so long, and then you finally do the thing you've been threatening to do, you can't go back to threatening them.
No.
Like, we're in a fight now. You can't be like, do this or I'm going to fight you. It's like, we've been in a fight.
Yeah,
this is the fight. There's no more threat. We're in it.
I can't remember which Iranian politician or government person it was, and to my detriment, but because Trump has been talking this big talk about how he's decimated Iran's facilities, Iran is toast, it's done, and then he keeps being like, and then we're going to negotiate, and somebody from Iran is just like, well, apparently we're toast and we have nothing, we're done, so what are we going to negotiate about? And I'm like, the sass is off the charts right now.
Yeah.
Well, the funny thing is, even Trump doesn't know who he's negotiating with. They asked him in a press scrum, and he was like, I can't really say who it is. And he was kind of implying it's because Israel will assassinate them, which is also possibly true. But I guarantee it's because Trump doesn't know who it was, or he made the person up.
Things can be two things. Trump can also not know this person's name, and also anyone he names Israel will assassinate.
Yes.
Yeah.
So, two things can be very true there. I certainly, as much as it's like, I think Trump is probably full of shit. I'm sure there are, because there always are, backroom negotiations going on through intermediaries or whatever. Like the whole Vietnam War, there were negotiations happening with the Viet Cong the whole time. With the Ho Chi Minh government, not the Viet Cong. And so, I'm sure there are negotiations, but there's a difference between someone acting as an intermediary, Qatar or whatever, and someone from distantly related to Steve Witkoff or whatever are meeting, in Dubai, and Iran is ready to end the war. Those two things are very far apart.
Yeah.
And there's a big difference between an intermediary who's like, I'm working on it, and then running into the other room to take a call, and an intermediary who's like, I'm working on it, and then running into the other room to buy $1.5 billion in S&P 500 futures, and then going back and being like, all right, you can tell them we're working on it. That is the type of intermediary that we're working with now. It's a bad faith intermediary. Can I buy time to rig the stock market intermediary is who we're dealing with.
Yeah. I mean, it's also, look, we knew when Trump took power again, because we saw in the first term, so much of what he does, the simplest answer with Trump is always, it's a grift.
Yes.
It's a way to make a few bucks. And so, why wouldn't that apply to a war? Why not? Especially in this world where you can, bet, billions of dollars in prediction markets and futures and everything. Of course, people who have the levers of power that people are betting on will, if they're not good actors, will use those levers of power to make money and enrich themselves. And Trump was not going to be the last person to do this. He's certainly not the first. So it's.
And if you want to bet if he's the last or the first, head over to Polymarket right now and use promo code TheBeaverton, and you can place your bet on what you think Trump's last bad gamble will be.
Who are we, the MLB?
Trump is listening to this, and he's already over there betting on what his last gamble will be.
But he forgot to put the promo code in, so he didn't get his free $10.
Yeah.
So the other thing that Trump said that I think grabbed everyone's attention was he said that he will jointly control the Strait of Hormuz with the Ayatollah.
And Trump is famously good at co-parenting. I mean, look at the healthy relationship he has with his ex-wives.
Yeah.
Ivana and
buried on
Maria.
his golf course.
Yeah.
With no headstone.
So, co-parenting.
Don Jr. and Eric turned out great.
Yes.
It turned out perfect.
Yeah, Barron definitely doesn't murder cats and dogs in the alley behind the White House every night. So that's just a fun Zoom call to imagine. It's just all right, Trump and the Ayatollah. What should we do? Should we leave it open? Maybe we close
It's
it.
a good thing that Hormuz is straight.
Just the
Because
Ayatollah,
otherwise it would be DEI.
the Ayatollah trying to explain to him that he's on mute the whole time.
You were supposed to pick up the straight this weekend. This was your weekend with the straight.
I'm here, Ayatollah. I swear I'm not a cat.
Oh my God.
It's a reference to some deep COVID
That's
video.
still one of my favorite
It is
videos
still
of
great.
all
What a
time.
But yeah, so the other side of this is that everyone always talks about like, oh, Trump is doing this to distract from that. Trump is doing this to distract from that. And I think it just becomes a vicious cycle because now the idea is Trump is keeping the war going to distract from the fact that he can't fund the TSA, and because like U.S. airports are in chaos because Trump essentially said to Republicans, don't agree to a TSA funding bill unless they pass the SAVE Act, which is a massive voting restriction law that will make it far harder for people to vote. Will limit the number of polling places. Will make it. Will require people to have like passports and birth certificates to vote, and is obviously targeted at minority voters who overwhelmingly vote Democrat.
And isn't it the one that like women who've changed their name?
Yes.
It's going to make it harder for them to vote as well.
Because like you in that case you would need your birth certificate, which a lot of people don't have, to prove that you are this person.
But you would need a birth certificate with your current voting ID name on it.
What?
Which is insane.
No, you'd have to go get your birth certificate to show that like you were the person who signed the wedding license to change and the license to change your name. Yeah. So in other words, it comes down to like having your birth certificate, which I think like they said like 20 to 30% of people don't have their birth certificate, nor have access to it, nor have any idea where it is.
Yeah.
So it's like you could do that, or you can go through like a hugely complicated like regulatory process and stuff. And it's like obviously some people will jump through all the hoops, but they're trying to disenfranchise millions of low interest, less likely to vote voters. Which I will say, like as much as I'm opposed to this law, like there's a very real chance if this law passes, they are shooting themselves in the foot because Trump's coalition is made by low propensity voters.
But I don't think in fucking bumfuck Kentucky they're not going to just wave you through if you show up to vote for Trump like with a big MAGA hat on. They'll just wave you through and be like, don't worry about it, Cletus, I know you.
Well, I mean, I don't know that
that.
local polling places have that kind of power to just wave people through because there will be media that, like, I mean, I hear what you're saying. There will absolutely be one system for the people Trump likes, one system. Otherwise, I mean, it's essentially Jim Crow laws, right?
Yeah.
Like in Jim Crow, you had to pass like a literacy test. Most white people couldn't have passed that literacy test, but they only made the black people take it. Like, I totally get what you're
It's also
saying.
like a poll tax, basically, because the passport thing that you mentioned, like a lot of people don't have passports and they're expensive.
Yeah.
And especially with all of the cuts that Doge did last year, passport applications are hugely slowed down.
Well, at least they balanced the budget.
Oh, good. That's right. They found $5 billion, 200, whatever.
Yeah, $200. Just $200.
So like so now you have a situation where Republicans can't pass that without nuking the filibuster because if the filibuster is placed, they need 60 votes, which they won't get. So they need to either nuke the filibuster, which is what Trump's calling on them to do, but then of course Democrats can use that if and when they get the Senate back, or they have to pass a watered down version of it or something that Democrats will agree to. But Trump is telling them don't pass any legislation on spending until they agree to the SAVE Act. So that's why now there's no funding for the TSA and Department of Homeland Security. And so it's like one thing spirals into another, and at this point, we're at such a level of like 8 levels of chaos that it's like, I think that's the goal. Is that the goal at this point with Trump?
The goal is that eventually a small sane thing seems like a treat, because essentially this bill comes down to fly here, bomb there, vote never. Those are the 3 things that this bill is all about. And then if you focus on enough things around it, then suddenly it's like, well, I do need to fly to Chicago this weekend for work. And if I can't do that, then we're fucked. So maybe we should agree with this. And it's like, well, now you've given bomb there and vote never. Yeah. But like if it's so much going on and so chaotic that eventually like that starts sounding like a great little nugget of a treat to be like, well, we're close to just having airplanes explode at airports and completely shut down international travel for our nation. And that's not a great option.
I need to travel.
Yeah, absolutely.
My livelihood depends on me traveling.
Yes. Yeah.
And we saw the deadly consequences of airport and air traffic controller underfunding this week, and 2 Canadian pilots lost their lives, and dozens more were hospitalized. And that was entirely the fault of a situation where like you've listened to those videos, the air traffic controller is just like dealing with 4 million things at once because, talking about like Barb filling in for a whole office.
And this is like over decades of underfunding.
Yes, it's Democrats too.
Yeah.
But
And
he's
also
got to
the
deal
truck
with,
didn't have the proper equipment or something like that.
And didn't respond to his, his second message, which was stop.
Yeah.
And again, I'm not trying to blame people who are involved in a horrific accident, but it's a situation where like, listening to it, it was essentially that scene in Breaking Bad when the guy causes two planes to collapse each other, and he's just like, but instead of being lost in grief, it's just a guy overwhelmed by 8 million people are talking to me, and even though when you only hear his side of the conversation, he's like, what was that? Yep, okay, yeah, and then you, and okay, and yeah.
It's honestly incredible that this
horrible.
hasn't happened yet.
Yeah. And it just comes down to, if you don't give money to the things people need so you can spend money on shit that's absurd and over the top and wars for oil and all that other stuff. It's like there are going to be consequences, and it sucks so horribly that it was Canadian. It was a Canadian airline that suffered the most tragic consequence of that. When obviously we're not, Canadian airlines are not in charge, and Canadian government are not the ones in charge of the air traffic controllers. So it's we're seeing the deadly consequences of Trumpism and the chaos he brings, and the just cut everything so we can bring in 1 million more ICE agents or whatever.
And once it gets within a breaking point too, and then once it gets within a breaking point too, it's just like the rippling repercussions of something like that, where it's just like, okay, so now we're like a 1% problem degree away from like shutting down LaGuardia, and then you do that and then the next airport's overwhelmed, and the next thing you know, it's just like, do you have air traffic? Like, what is even going on? How do you run a state and a nation when you're within that degree of complete failure of travel and trade?
I don't want to fly in that environment.
Yeah. I mean, if you needed another reason to not fly to the U.S.,
Seriously.
what happened this week? But yeah, so I mean, we'll see.
But ICE will smooth it out.
Yeah, now there's ice in the airport.
Whenever
so
I
ICE
go
will
to an
smooth it out.
airport, I think what this place needs is 50 heavily armed racist freaks with no education.
Yeah, who will not show their face or identify themselves.
Yeah.
Just grabbing people who they think look illegal, which you can infer what that probably means.
America's most violent high school dropouts.
Yeah.
Yes.
Now checking my bag to go through security.
Yeah.
And it's like, and even if the ICE agents who happen to be at Airport XY are doing things properly, are following the rules, and are not just grabbing random people who they think are illegals and throwing them on the ground, which they have been. But even if they were, at this point, ICE is so known for the chaos they bring and the cruelty that they bring, and of course the destruction they bring, that just their presence causes panic.
That's the point of them.
Yes,
though.
that is the point. But I'm saying you put that in a controlled, locked down environment like an airport is supposed to be, and all of a sudden, like 10 people who are like, maybe they're not here illegal, maybe they're like, they're on visas, or they have a green card, or anything that isn't I was born in the U.S. And they see an ICE agent and their flight or flight kicks in and they fucking run, and the chaos that does to an airport of seeing people just suddenly sprinting out of there,
and it's also going to just stop people from leaving. It's slowly just control. It's not even like keeping people in, like keeping people out. It's keeping people in as well.
Yeah.
Which I think is also an important thing to kind of keep in mind.
Yeah, to keep people in, to punish them further, to create further chaos and things like that. And the fact that they even have live weapons in airports as well. Like, these are some of the worst trained, poor trigger control, absolute lunatics of people. The second that a firearm is fired within a crowded airport, all bets are off as to what type of ripple effect that is going to cause. It is one thing to have that controllable within a city street, still causing tragedy, but one then where it's like the street can be controlled, people can still get away and escape and not trample each other. But in an airport, that is this is an absolute recipe for disaster.
The moment we get an Alex Preddy situation or a Renee Good situation in a fucking airport.
In an airport. Which is just a matter of time with poorly trained, angry people with no understanding of the firearms that they have.
Yeah. 100%. All right. Well, before we move into the big finish, a quick message to the listener. First of all, thank you for checking out the show. If you'd be so kind, hop on your podcast app of choice, leave 5 stars, leave a review, say something you liked about the show. It really helps us move up in the charts, get more people listening, and grow this thing to be the biggest and best thing it can be. Also, feel free to share some of our video clips, tell a friend, do everything you can to help us out. If you are so inclined, you can also support us monetarily at patreon.com/thebeaverton. There, you will not only be keeping the podcast going, the website alive, you will also be be entitled to a extended cut version of this podcast every week, where we talk about a story or stories we didn't cover on the rest of the episode. This week, we dive into the Canada Land fishing story and Jesse Brown's war on left-wing and pro-Palestinian journalists. It gets quite interesting and a little off the rails, as Patreon sections often do. And Ian, do you have any shout-outs this week?
Oh, yeah, lots. We got some nice comments. Over on iTunes, user IDMBs said, best broad topic Canadian political podcast. It's kind of funny, too.
Oh,
Thanks,
all right.
Thanks for that undercut at the end. I'll take it. Steffi over on Patreon said, thank you for making my commute from Oshawa into the GTA more enjoyable. No joke, just a nice one.
Hey, I was waiting for the, and also you suck part, but it didn't happen.
Sometimes you can make me laugh.
Yeah.
And Drashir over on Patreon said, because this came out on the Wednesday, and he heard it, and he said, the JRPP podcast is real, and it's 3 hours long, because I guess we kind of called it ahead of time.
Oh, you called it. I was completely oblivious. I was like, also he's going to Austin for some reason. Then you were like, I bet he's doing Rogan. I was like, no!
Anyway, he said, it's 3 hours long. Godspeed, Beavertoneers, and may they have mercy on your souls. So I appreciate that. Thanks, bud. And just thanking some of our Patreon supporters, some of our OG supporters. We got Hey You, Charlotte, Kippy, and Jessica Dracul. Nice try, Dracula. And some of our new supporters, there's Daniel Schwartz Narbonne, Abby Shears, House Double G, and Rolling Bones. Those names just keep getting cooler. I love it.
Awesome.
I feel like now people are trying to come up with a name that will sound cool on the podcast.
Fantastic.
Which
Do it.
I'm 100%
Yes,
in favor
I
of.
approve.
Yeah. All right. Thanks, Ian. Thanks, Patreon members. And now it is time for the approximately 10-minute long quiz.
It's the approximately 10-minute long quiz. Brought to you by Time.
Every week, I ask the panelists to play the approximately 10-minute long quiz, where I put their knowledge of some less widely reported news stories to the test. Panel, your first question. Why was Tim Hortons forced to recall thousands of mugs it sold earlier this year?
The mug said, I'd rather be drinking piss.
The mugs unfortunately contain Tim Hortons coffee, which is toxic when consumed.
The mugs contained good coffee, so clearly that was a mistake at the production line.
That's it. That's the one.
All excellent choices. Anyone know the real story?
Lead?
No.
I'm going to
Okay.
assume that they shattered when they encountered hot liquid.
100% correct. They had a tendency to burn you if you put hot liquid in them by cracking and leaking. Not shattered, I guess, but it was close enough. So these were color-changing mugs. The interior and handle of the mug are both pink, but the outside has a donut decal that changes color into one of 4 different donut designs when warm liquid is poured into the mug. So you pour your coffee or tea in or whatever, and you're like, look, it went pink. Fun. Except for the fact that the mug was not designed to handle hot liquid, and the mug would crack and leak, and you would burn yourself.
And it color changes your hand,
Yeah.
which then becomes bright red.
The hand and the thighs where the water spilled down to, all of a sudden real blotchy colored. But they did change colors. But yes, so
I was thinking of the Nazi in Indiana Jones in the Last Crusade,
yeah.
or in the first one, who grabbed in Last
Raiders,
Crusade,
yeah.
Raiders,
Medallion.
who grabs the medallion on fire and then just has a circle burned into his palm for the rest of the
Except
movie.
it's a Tim Hortons donut.
Except it's a Tim Hortons donut. It's that
yeah.
guy. Yeah.
you can tell it's stale from the hand palm. It's interesting. All right, next question. Point to Clare on that one. Meta has, as I'm sure everyone knows, recently abandoned the multi-billion-dollar metaverse and taken a huge loss on it. But help is on the way. What new appointment has Mark Zuckerberg made in the hopes of helping him run the company much better?
Was it a therapy appointment?
We could have only hoped.
You're an insane billionaire and you should stop.
Was it a soul?
Ooh, we made an appointment to get a soul like Spike, and you have to earn a soul though, or be cursed.
Like Spike and Angel, yes, I knew what you were putting down there.
R.I.P. Nicholas Brandon.
Was it someone from Shark Tank? And by Shark Tank, I do not mean the television series. I mean a Shark Tank, where I assume he keeps his family with those dead shark eyes that he has.
That's why everyone in the metaverse didn't have legs. The shark put them off.
Exactly.
Ooh,
Yeah.
yeah.
And don't have them.
It was none of those things. Does anyone know the real answer? Slash, you can probably guess what it is.
AI bot.
AI bot. Yeah, I think we all saw it coming. It is so now there is an AI bot specifically designed to help Mark Zuckerberg run Facebook, which I know is a stunt. I know he's not going to actually do it, but that's the idea. It's part of the Silicon Valley trend token maxing, in which employees are encouraged to use AI as much as possible, definitely because it's more efficient and not because they've spent billions on AI and they're the only ones who want to use it.
Oh my
I
god.
hate it so much.
I saw just this afternoon that OpenAI has already shut down Sora.
Oh, yeah.
Sure.
Their video piracy app.
Yeah.
That Disney was like, I guess we'll let you use this if we work with you on it, and it's already shut down, and Disney has pulled their $1 billion investment from OpenAI.
good.
Maybe it's starting already.
I mean, it's gonna happen. Yeah, I've seen the only time I've seen Sora clips are on YouTube Shorts, and the only thing I've seen is someone or an algorithm is making a bunch of YouTube Shorts where it's a baseball game, but someone falls out of the stands and hits the ground as the outfielder goes to catch a ball. And there's 50 different videos that have popped into my feed like that, and I always am like, why? And then I scroll past, but I guess I stay long enough that they're like, that's what you want. I don't know.
You're wrong, Luke.
That
That
I-
was the future.
Like, that happens in real life. You can just watch videos of that happening.
I know, but in real life, do they just kind of like get back up and
Oh,
aren't that
no,
hurt?
no.
I guess that's the magic, is they fall and everyone goes, oh my God, and then the guy gets up and waves.
Oh, God.
I don't know, man. I'm not an AI. I'm not smart enough to
So
be
it
making AI
says.
Sora videos.
Or are you?
I've been a chatbot this whole time. All right, next question. Point to Andrew on that one. What activity were two Quebec men barred from doing this week, despite the fact they are extremely good at it?
Trying to leave Canada?
Ooh, solid.
Helping Anglo visitors.
There's no one in Quebec who does that.
Yeah, that's why they would be such an anomaly.
That's true.
Excuse me, where's the metro? And then they actually helped.
Yeah.
Get out of here.
They call it poutining, and it's a whole category on Quebecois Pornhub.
Oh, no.
These two guys are amazing at it. You should check out their
wanna know.
OnlyFans or Sûrement Fans.
Or only Kurds?
Oh,
That's it.
I.
Wait, what? No!
Are you gonna?
Am I right?
No, are you gonna say what poutining would be?
Oh, it's
I assume we were all waiting to hear what poutining is.
I was not. I'm throwing that out
All right,
there.
let's move
what
on.
am I, Megan?
I will say, in a weird way, you're in the right world in that it's a sex. In that it's a sex thing.
Okay, good.
Or sex adjacent thing, I suppose.
Right.
Does anyone want to hazard a guess?
I got nothing on this.
Donating sperm. They are banned from donating sperm. A father and son were barred from donating sperm. Not in the same room, I don't think. After the pair allegedly fathered over 600 children total, which experts warn could pose risks to the children and their families. I guess because like too much same genetic material, there's a decent chance of like incest happening, things like that down the road because they're all going to be in different families.
He's like
They don't know
Genghis
each other.
Khan.
Yeah, I was about to say the
God.
Quebecois cons
Yes.
is what we've
They're all
developed.
going to have like the same birthmark. Yeah.
Oh, God.
Yeah, I mean, the other giveaway is they're all last name Tremblay, but that's just everyone in Quebec anyway.
Is
so
this
those
a sequel to that Quebecois movie from like 10 years ago, Starbuck?
Starbuck? Yeah.
Yeah.
That they remade with Vince Vaughn for some reason?
Yes.
Oh, I don't know. I don't know this.
Starbuck is also a real story about a Quebecois man who fathered like not 600, but fathered a lot of kids, and then like when he
through
was-
donating
yes, through
sperm.
donating sperm, and then went around and like met them later on.
Wow.
Yeah, and like and got involved with their lives, and then they made like a goofy comedy about it, and then they made an American remake that bombed. Yeah, where
I don't know enough about Quebecois film. Apparently, I'm like Bun Cop, Jizz Cop. I don't know what. That's the only film version of this that I could think.
I love that our reference, even though literally Canada's most famous filmmaker right now came out of the Quebecois film industry.
Yeah,
we're still like, Bon Cop, Bad Cop's the reference.
Yeah.
We all know.
I'm going with that.
No one needs
Bon
incendies.
Cop,
No one worries
Jizz
about
Cop.
what Denny Villeneuve's up to. Bon Cop, Bad Cop. Yeah. All right, no points.
Dune, Dune in
Dune?
sperm donation? No, no.
I like that we're still making porn parodies, even though this did not involve porn. We were just also enamored with Ian's poutine.
It probably involved porn at some point
Well,
during
that's
the
true.
donation
Yeah, you're
process.
right. You're right.
Yeah,
You can't get 600 without some visual aids.
they're in
Yeah.
there. They're watching Arrival from their favorite Quebecois filmmaker, Denis Villeneuve. And they're making an Arrival.
Yeah. Yeah. This felt more like a Sicario day.
Enemy. Huh.
That's a rough one.
That's.
I mean, two Jake Gyllenhaals.
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
Oh, yeah.
All right, last question. This week, 2 CF-18 jets were scrambled to escort an Air Canada flight into an airport because a customer on board was considered to be a dangerous criminal. What heinous crime do you think he had committed?
Appearing on the Joe Rogan podcast.
Is he the guy who stole my bike that time?
Dickhead Dave.
Oh, yeah, that guy. Oh,
I
they
remember
finally
that guy.
got him. Good.
Fuck that guy.
Yeah, shotgun. Yeah. I unfortunately know the answer to this.
Please.
It's real stupid. Credit card fraud.
Close.
Wasn't it?
Aeroplan points fraud.
Oh, that's even worse.
That's why they had to get him in the
why they had to get him
sky.
in the
Thought it was
sky.
credit card fraud.
Airplane. You can only arrest people for aeroplane points fraud in the sky.
It's right there in the name.
It's like investing for someone for piracy on dry land. It doesn't work.
No, it has to be on the sea.
Yeah, it's got to be on the sea or the sky, yeah. Yes, the guy had stolen someone else's aeroplan identity, aka was using someone else's points to fly. And the reason it caused such a big reaction was because the other person, the victim of the theft, was also happened to be flying at the same time. And so to the airline, to Air Canada, it looked like we have the same person, like same name, same birth date, same everything, on 2 different flights going to 2 different places. Clearly, one of them is fake, and in that case, the concern is terrorism because someone is using an illegal, a stolen identity. So there was a good reason why they did it. It wasn't just like if you commit airplane points fraud, we'll scramble CF-18 jets.
That's I was wondering because I didn't read that second part, and I was like, "This is so stupid.
Yeah.
Like, what is happening?"
It is funnier to imagine the Air Canada CEO being like, "Someone stole our points. Scramble the jets."
Those jets actually arrive on time.
In a Minority Report style control room, like white walls, screens everywhere.
Holograms.
Activate Jason Bourne.
He's already on the flight.
I don't know who the Canadian Jason Bourne is. Oh man,
It's one of the Trailer Park Boys, probably. Or,
It's Bubbles. Yeah, that's it.
yeah, the one on trial for sex assault.
God, of course, that's the only name I threw out. Great. No, it's Julian. That's who I meant. I just love the idea that they were like, it might be a terrorist because they imagine a terrorist who's like, I'm going to go to that country. I'm going to strike a blow against the infidels. Can I use points? Like, I got to get my points in there. I'm so close to a trip to Maui.
After this plane goes down, I'll be able to afford a trip to Maui. All right. Well, at the end of our quiz, our winner is Clare Blackwood. Congratulations. You have won absolutely nothing save for the right of first plug.
huzzah! You can find me on YouTube at It's Clare Blackwood, and if you can support me and my comedy, please do on Patreon at Clare Blackwood Comedy, or just look up The Very Unfunny Leftist.
Excellent. Andrew Ivimey.
If you like podcasts, which clearly you do, you can listen to me host Talk from Superheroes, where every week me and my co-host Diana talk about a superhero TV show or movie. That's Talk from Superheroes, wherever you get your podcasts. And if you're on the East Coast of Canada, I'm going to be there at the end of April. I will be performing in Moncton on April 22nd at Zeroz. I will be performing at Good Robot in Halifax, Nova Scotia on the 23rd.
Yay.
And I will be performing at The Factory in Charlottetown on April 25th. So April 22nd to the 26th, I'll be on the East Coast of Canada. You can find tickets and information on all those shows on my social media. I'm everywhere at Ivimey, Ivimey.
Excellent. Ian?
Yeah, just a couple of Beaverton headlines that made me smile this week. U.S. loses World Baseball Classic bet, has to give Venezuela their oil back. By Rob Ito. And ChatGPT starting to think human it talking to might be sentient, which made me laugh a lot.
Yeah, excellent headlines. And thank you, Ian. Thank you, panel. And thank you to everyone for listening. We will be back next week, and we will talk to you then. Bye-bye.
The Beaverton Weekly Report is produced by Andrew Ivimey in partnership with the From Superheroes Network. Visit FromSuperheroes.com to hear more great podcasts like this.